Welcome to the Washdown podcast. And on this episode, we have returning guest Darrin Niemeier. And we had a great conversation. He's getting ready to retire, so we talked about that quite a bit. Talked about some other leadership and societal, cultural issues. So hope you guys enjoy it. It was a fantastic episode. Make sure you check him out on Instagram and all that stuff. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. So here you go, the Washdown podcast with guest Darrin Niemeier.
No luck.
You keep asking to get fired, and I would let you quit if you just would be serious about it, but you always half-ass everything.
Wow.
That's very true.
He's like, I quit, and then he comes back 10 minutes later.
Yeah, because he's like, hey, man, I really need you to be here. And, I can't do this by myself. That kind of shit. And I'm like, he lays the guilt trip on me. And then I'm like, fuck, I feel sorry for this asshole. So I show up.
Yeah.
He's got like half a friend.
But what's funny is, all the years that we worked together and couldn't get him to fucking clean a bathroom. Nothing. No matter what I said. No matter what I said, he would not fucking clean.
You ever seen
Couldn't shame him into it.
You ever seen Jerry pick up
podcast? He's like, oh, I do. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you got a conscience.
I've cleaned more toilets than you've ever thought about cleaning. Oh man, no, I got to work out, or I got to prepare my food, or it was always an excuse. I'm checking the rig out, and the doors were dirty and had no fingerprints on them. Don't worry, man. I'll wash the rig too, Jeremy. I got it.
Well,
he's back there sleeping. I was training, man. I was out late.
Know your place. Know your role.
The sub firefighter on the crew, and couldn't get him to do a damn thing. Talk about shaming people.
That's just leadership. I was just helping you.
Yeah,
make sure.
Roll with that. Jack off.
Well, Darrin, thanks for coming back to the show.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. So you have a retirement meeting today.
This afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So the end is near.
Yeah. So how long will it have been?
25 with current department. And in the industry, actually since I was 14. Started at 14 as a explorer, the local small department. I had a cousin that worked there, and I just wanted to get involved. I wanted to do it, hanging out at the station with him, and so we formed a explorer program and started that when I was 14. And then we couldn't go into active fires. We could go in afterwards, overhaul that kind of stuff, but we did do all the EMS stuff. I mean, I was doing CPR at 14.
Holy
damn.
Yeah, looking back now, terrible idea, as you know, right?
Yeah.
At the time as a kid, it was great. This is what I'm doing.
So that brings up something that I want to talk about, and especially since you're right there at the edge of retirement. I was talking to another fireman about that who has sons on the job now who are 19. And we were kind of talking about, the trauma of the things that they're going to see at that age and how their brains aren't fully formed.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think that did going like
it? And I've thought about it a ton, especially now getting close to going.
Yeah.
I've looked, I remember all those things. I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but I can drive you to that house, the one that I'm thinking about when I was 14 doing CPR at.
Yeah.
But the long-term effects, I don't know. I mean, it's just like it totally throws off your, I think your ability to mature and grow the way you're supposed to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think you just have such a different perception of life and what can happen. And I mean, it just totally changes that. And like I said, at the time, and for years, I never thought that was a bad idea. It didn't hit me till later in life, how long I've been doing it. And because I'm 48 now. And so I'm just like, that was a terrible idea. And at the time, all of us, even, the other people involved that were the leaders of that program and stuff, they said it was a small department. We weren't that busy. So it didn't seem like anything huge. But I know long term, it has a lot of effects. And I've thought about those days when I started a lot and all the stuff I seen then. So, but the actual effects on me, I'm not sure, other than just the accumulative effects that we all have, but just being younger and kind of molding your thought processes.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, the way that you kind of view the world.
Yeah.
The lens that you look through.
Yeah.
Well, what if they did something where you're still exposed at an early age, but then you're able to sit down and talk to someone about it in a professional setting?
Well,
that
so
way, no offense to anybody who leaves or quits or finds out they can't do it after they've gotten hired, which is fine. But now you know at an early age, hey, this isn't for me. But you've also learned a valuable lesson about life that I think as adults you learn as an adult, but you don't always get the same experience from it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. Where I tend to lean more to the bad side because of an age, but I think if it's done in the right way, you can still have that Explorer program and learn.
Yeah,
I'm not explaining it quite right, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that it was a great program, and I learned a ton of things from it. I think they're probably, looking back now, we probably should have put some things, what kind of calls you went on, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And being there afterwards, working with, everybody that ran the call and getting things back together on the ambulance and those kind of things to kind of expose you to it, but not be in there actively doing it.
Yeah.
Kind of easing into it.
Yeah.
A little bit. Like, you don't want your first call to be your super traumatic trauma call. Or
Well, so that can happen regardless.
It can.
But I think at an age standpoint, think about it. We have age limits for just about everything. 18 for joining the military and tobacco and voting and all this other stuff, and 21 for alcohol and all this stuff. But yet we're going to have a 14, 15, 16-year-old go and be doing CPR on somebody in an Explorer program. That's, I think there should be some protections in place.
No, I agree. There needs to be protections. But we also see teenagers and younger doing that kind of stuff on family members. And it's not often. I'm not saying it happens all the time. I'm not.
That's a different issue. Having a formal program, that kind of stuff,
but
I think there needs to be some protection.
Yeah, and I think
through the protections there, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think that the people, like I said, one of my cousins was one of them, and I don't think they didn't realize it either at the time. At the time it was, we're learning, we're doing it, we're doing the job, or all those kind of things. So I don't want it to sound like it was a bad program or it was just, we probably didn't think about some of those kind of things like we should have.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm sure going forward, I mean, the way things are now, I'm sure things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
That program I don't think is still there anymore. The Explorer program is, but not at that department. And even there, I started there as a volunteer at 18, which looking back now is still pretty young.
Yeah.
At the time you think I'm 18, I'm an adult. Well, I just listened to a different podcast not long ago. They said that the brain doesn't fully develop until you're like 28.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that even from 18, that's 10 years of doing those things during the time your brain's developing. So I think that changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And there's something, they have to do some kind of, I don't even know how they would do it. But to see the effects of that, I mean, I guess you can't really predict the future and go, well, if you hadn't been exposed to this trauma on the job, between the time you were 18, 19, 20, and 26 or 27, 28, this is how you would have been. Yeah. But now you're this, so.
Yeah, I think that's an impossible thing to really figure out, because if you guys were doing the same thing at 14 to 18, who knows? You may be totally different. You would have reacted totally different than me. So it's just one of those things that's really hard to come up with the right solution. I think for our job, I think one of the big things they need to do is a lot more OJT.
I think we're all in agreement at this table on that.
Yeah, and because it does, like you said, expose people at a young age, early on in their career, because it's different. We had some OJT kids out of this last class, took them, did some drilling, and they're like, this is nothing like what we did at the academy. And no fault of the academy instructors. I mean, they've got the props and the things that they have to use. But if they were out in the field doing OJT, doing those things, I think it'd be different, a mindset for them coming out into the field.
Yeah.
So I think we, as a whole, our department, other small departments, Explorer programs don't do a very good job of preparing people to really be out there. And I'm not that I have all the answers and know what the best solution is, but I think that prep work is a big thing that we're missing.
So I kind of look at the Explorer programs. I think they're great, but it's kind of like going to college in a way. So different. It's in your field and what you're learning. So you learn this the book way, and same thing in college. Whatever field you're going to go into, you learn the book way, and then you get out in the field and you're like, well, how that shit works. So now you have to learn how to do it in real life.
Yeah.
So things change, and that's where your OJT comes from, and you're on the job. And even when companies do that,
Yeah.
you have a break-in period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing, because just because the book says this, well,
Yeah.
that's not going to work on this door or on this house or whatever.
Well, you guys know as well as anybody that the time and ability in the academy is limited.
Yeah.
Right? And you can't, no matter how you simulate in training, it's still just a simulation.
Yep.
Doing the real thing, you can do CPR on a dummy 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
It is not the same as doing CPR on an actual person.
Yeah.
Where you can go in the burn tower 100 times.
Yep.
Your first house fire is going to be totally different.
Yeah.
And every fire that you go in after that is going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's a job that is constantly evolving, constantly changing. We're not running the same calls. We're running the same types, but no call is the same as the one that you just ran.
Yeah.
And the only way I think personally is to prepare people for that is to have a robust OJT system.
Yeah.
And have them out there, have them running the calls with supervision before they actually become, manpower.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because so we had we went out and did some drilling, did some ventilation on an old, 3-story apartment building. And he was like, this is so different. The academy used the roof prop. They did basically the same thing, but they were tied off. They were all those things. And they were like, well, now I'm 3 stories up. There's no ropes holding me up here. There's none of this. We're doing it like we're doing it in the field.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's so different. I'm so not prepared for that. And easily over 3/4 of that class could come out, and the first time they're on a roof like that, there's fire under them, and then add that to it.
Yeah.
So I think something there needs to change, but I don't know how they do that. I know they want bodies
no
and
easy
seats.
answers.
Yeah, I know they want bodies and seats, and it's all time and money to get that. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of downtime too that they could use better at the academy to crunch things together and give that time at the end more time out in the field. But
Yeah. And I think it's partially that, and partially it is the whole, everybody's short staffed and we're trying to just rush people through and have them become manpower and all that. So we've allowed that on the job training to kind of fall by the wayside for a large, like whenever we came on, it was 3 months,
yeah,
on a pumper, on a truck, floating a district. So you get to see everything else, and learned a lot that way. I think it's still perfectly feasible to do that, but it's also incumbent on those company officers and those crews that are out there to take the time and initiative to train that new individual.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is there's a lot of, it's fallen through the cracks.
Yep.
And some of it has to do with call volume of, all right, well, we just ran 25 freaking calls last day. Okay, everybody's tired, whatever. Okay, we're going to go train. Okay, cool. So you pack all your shit up and you go out to wherever you're going to train, and you're there for 15 minutes, and then you're on a call.
Yeah.
Or you're on a call and you're on a call, and you can't go out of service to train because you have to be available for calls. And it's one of those things where we have to do something to allow for a training cycle
Yeah.
during the day. And I don't know what the solution is.
Because we had kind of a short conversation about this very thing after we had that person out drilling. And I kind of wondered, and I don't know how the program would look, if maybe we need an FTO program on the fire side like they do on the EMS side. Like certain captains are quote-unquote FTOs, have gone through some kind of thing, and then these kids are assigned to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some accountability there, and they, dispatch knows, the chiefs know, hey, this FTO has somebody, so they're going to be out training.
I'm sure some departments do it that way, and it's just going to look at the model.
Yeah.
And then copying it.
Yeah.
Well, the speaker from, where was that, Norfolk?
Norfolk, yeah.
He talked about how they have a book,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like check marks in that book of things that they have to do, and by a certain time and all that stuff. It's a model that a lot of departments have adopted,
Mm-hmm.
and
I think it should go nationwide.
It should,
in the entire fire service. But I think that goes for every level, whether you're a brand new firefighter, brand new driver, engineer, chauffeur, whatever you want to call them, lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, deputy.
Yeah.
'Cause you have assistant chief. All those things change.
Yeah.
Even the fire chief, director, commissioner, whatever you want to call that spot, it's completely different than the one you just came from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, if they could set it up, we do so much on the computer now. Each cadet has that booklets on the computer because they're going to lose it. They're not going to bring it with them. They're going to leave it at the station.
That's a part of the accountability thing.
Sure. Yeah.
You give them that hard notebook or binder and say, this, you better make sure, and then have consequences if they lose it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things that we like too is consequences.
So now maybe not put it on the desktop or the computer system, but email a copy to that captain they're assigned to.
Yeah.
That way you've still got it, but they don't have access to it to be like, oh, yeah, it's in my car or I left it at home.
Yeah.
And they print off a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's like anything. There'd be a lot of bugs to work out, but I think something like that would be huge. I mean, we do that in the search and rescue world. In the search team I'm on, the new candidates have a workbook. Basically, they bring with them to every training, and it has all the things. Okay, we're going to go over radio communications. This is how you do it. This is how the radio works. This is how we talk. This is what you say. That gets checked off. Next training, they bring it. Okay, now we're going to go over land navigation, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so we know that they've gone through all those things before they're kicked out in the field.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, the military does it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You guys do it that way in the search and rescue. Other fire departments do it that way. It's a system that works.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah,
you want to make sure your people are well rounded too.
Yeah,
just because you're on a certain rig and usually you do this job doesn't mean on this call you're not going to do something different.
Yeah,
or a different part of the city.
Well, even like my guys, they get detailed to a pumper, they get detailed to a rescue. I mean, you got to know those jobs too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on a truck almost my whole career, but if I take overtime, it's more likely going to be on a pumper or something else. So I think all those things need to be there. And then nothing's that way. I shouldn't say nothing, but less things fall through the cracks on education and getting trained on it and knowing how to do it. So there's less chance of you showing up to a fire and being like, I've never been on a roof 3 stories up before. But anyway, we kind of took a left turn there for a little bit, but
hey, I know it's a problem in the fire service world, and it needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
Training's an issue, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
Because how many times can you do the same drill too?
Right.
So now you have to figure out, and what was the one we had? Arizona.
Rick Booker.
Thank you. Yeah. I lost his name for a second. I mean, the drills that he was talking about, he set up. Hey, these are real calls I ran. So I'm going to make it a little more challenging. Because now you're thinking outside the box. Because how many times you run a call and you're like, oh, yeah, I've done this. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Hang on, I need a second. I got to look at this. And
yeah.
Where it's, as quick as what I'm not as quick as what I would like to be sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Yeah.
Even EMS calls, I'm like, I don't fucking know, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at them.
Yeah.
And we're going to go.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And that's where I think, in my brain, where the academy should be the basics, hammer the basics in until their muscle memory.
Yeah.
And then get out in the field doing OJT, where all the little muscle memory things, getting your gear on on the rig, not just off the floor, those kind of things. That's all done. So then we can really get into, like I said, in it, the hard stuff of throwing some challenging things to really
Yeah.
think about and how you're going to solve this.
Well, it's the crawl, walk, run method.
Yeah.
You crawl in the academy.
Yeah.
That's the very baseline, basic things.
Yeah, you're setting that foundation.
Yeah. And then on your OJT, by the end of your OJT, you should be able to walk, maybe even trot a little bit.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
whenever you hit your first company, you should be at the run stage.
Yeah.
Within a few months.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't, it should be by the time you hit a company, your biggest thing is just fitting into how they do things. Because, everybody does some different things.
Yeah.
You should have all the knowledge there. Not the experience, but it's just the knowledge of how things operate. What,
Yeah.
like you said, at the trot, getting ready to run stage.
Yeah.
And then just mold into that company.
Yeah.
But
And I think as a company officer, you need to be prepared to kind of change the way you're doing things depending on the crew that you have.
oh yeah.
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 I mean, I'm pretty sure we can all throw a 24-foot ladder on our own.
Yeah.
There's people that can't, and it's okay. So how do we teach you to where you can do this?
Yeah.
You just don't know you can yet. And then how do we, like a hose line? Not everybody can hold a hose line on their own.
Yeah.
So how do we modify this to where you can control this by yourself? Because let's be honest, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't like it. You be on a hose line on your own, but things go wrong.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared for it.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the whole leadership thing of knowing your people, knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, and setting them up for success.
Yeah.
And not asking the 5 foot, 100-pound female to go throw a 35 by herself. It's fucking stupid. If you've got the 6'4", 280-pound bodybuilder who's just completely crazy strong, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do that, man.
Eating C4 on the way to the fire.
Exactly.
I got a couple of those on my rig.
Yeah.
The demolition block. Not
Those guys
actually,
are great.
Yeah.
I loved working on his crew. I'm like, you guys got it. I'm going to stand here and
Yeah,
watch.
that's amazing.
But, you have to know that and be able to set assignments and tasks for the people that can complete them.
You do, but you can't. You still got to have that person who's smaller know how to do the job and do it, because there's going to come a time when that person is what you got, and that's what you got to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking to when I first got here about the generational things. And I think a lot of them need to learn I can do this on my own without somebody holding my hand, where some of the older generation was like, you didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah.
And so I think that needs to be taught to the new people coming on. You can do this. We just have to figure out what's the best way for you to do it.
Yeah. And
Without just saying, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only you can do this, but you have to do
You
this
have to do
because
this.
Yeah.
this is the job.
Yeah.
So, and we've talked about it and, can and will.
Yeah.
Can you do the job? Will you do the job? And all of that stuff. And, we've talked about how it seems like the new generation doesn't really want to be here and this and that and the other thing. And, I think part of that is magnified or exacerbated because we are so short-staffed.
Yeah.
So those individuals stand out more
Yeah.
than they would in years past, because we've always had those individuals
Sure.
who are just here for a paycheck.
Yep.
They have no interest really in doing the job. They're just here to collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Which is whatever. But we got to do something to, I don't know, like bring them along.
Yeah.
And make them see the importance of what we're doing and how
Yeah.
we're doing it.
Like I said, I think it's like we were saying, it's such a different mindset of it's just a job. You go there, you collect your paycheck, they'll do it, but it's not, a lot of them I don't feel are going to be doing the extra, when they have downtime, they're not, looking at YouTube videos of fire stuff. It's TikTok and, whatever else. And don't get me wrong, I do that stuff too, but I think that it's more of, for them, their focus is more outside of work. They live that more carefree lifestyle. And there's some things about that I wish I could have done growing up that I didn't, because it was just a different mentality, different lifestyle. But
Yeah. The question is, how do you bridge the gap between the two to where you're more like that and they're more like your generation or our generation?
yeah.
Yeah, because there has to be everybody talks about that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's the thing. And I think they're more they're more on the life side of it and not enough on the work side.
Yeah.
And most of us are too much on the work side and not enough on the life side.
Yes.
And so there does have to be, I think we can learn from that, but we have to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Got to find that middle ground because, I mean, like I said, we're Arlie Ermy. They're 60s hippies.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
We right now, we have that much of a difference between us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So
and I
where's
think,
the-
and me and my wife have had this conversation. She's, in leadership at a big hospital. And so she sees it too. The same kind of things, different environment. And I think that our generation created this generation by how we were raised. Not that we didn't have things. I had a great childhood. My parents were awesome, did everything they could for us, but we had to pitch in. We had to help. We had to do things. If you wanted things, you had to work for it, those kind of things. And I think when our generation had children, we were more, I don't want them to have to do that. We want them to be able to enjoy their childhood and do that. So I think we somewhat created it. Not on purpose.
Intentionally.
Yeah, not intentionally. And now
You guys fucked shit up.
It goes back
I
to
can
that.
point the finger because I have no children. I didn't contribute to this problem.
It's definitely that unintended consequences of trying to
do better.
Yeah, like okay, I still want them to earn it, but not at the expense of everything else they want to do.
Yeah.
Because you want them to have those experiences and learn and grow as a person. But I think we went too far.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I never subscribed to the everybody gets a trophy bullshit.
Yeah.
I'd earn it. My son still had to do stuff around the house. But like he mowed the yard twice, and I was like, "You're fucking done." I was like, "I can't take the mouth. I can't take the shitty squirrely lines." And
Yeah, and that's the other thing, that it's like it gets to the point where it's like, I'll just do it because I want it done in a timely manner and correct. And instead of molding them to, okay, no, that we're going to do this together and this is how this is going to happen, we're just like, I don't have the patience for it. I'm just
and then dealing with the social media stuff that our parents never had to deal with.
Yeah.
That was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And cell phones and all this other stuff. And let's be honest,
and
schools suck.
Yeah, it's been a big change for me because, I mean, as you guys know, my daughter passed away at 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that I'm remarried, I have 3 stepchildren. The youngest is 15, and then a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old and a grandbaby. So I kind of missed some of that middle ground. So I just kind of jumped into having older children. I'm like, what?
Jumped into teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, nobody prepared me for, and they're great kids. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're great kids. I don't have to worry about them. They're not going out doing the dumb stuff I did as a kid. I can see that it's in there. I can see it's in there, and one of them for sure. But they're not. I mean, they're good kids. Good. But you can definitely see the difference. Just like me growing up, my dad had bird dogs, and I was around that kind of stuff. They were in a pen out the back of the yard, and every night you took the scraps out and you fed them. It didn't matter if it was raining, snowing, 10 degrees, 100 degrees. It didn't matter. You just did it because that's what you were told to do, and there was consequences if you didn't.
Yeah.
So now, as you guys know, we have several dogs around, and one of them, their job in the evenings when they're with us is to let the dogs out. And when that all started, he was like, well, what's in it for me? Like, what are you going to give me?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
your ability to keep breathing.
I'm like,
can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
The courts come after you.
Yeah. Did you eat tonight?
Yeah.
That's what I gave you.
Yeah.
But,
Look, it's
but
raining.
I get
Are
it.
you dry?
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
and it's no fault of his own. That's just, I think what we were talking about, how our generation raised kids compared to how we were raised.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want them to feel that way or go through that or whatever. And now we're like, oh crap, we messed that up.
You get used to instant gratification too because of social media that they grew up with.
Yeah.
And they post a picture or an idea or whatever, and they get a bunch of likes.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, you get a bunch of likes, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that works.
What was that dopamine hit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I'm the same way. You guys both know I have social media, my own plus for my business stuff, and it is. You see that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is, people enjoy this, people like this, is getting attention.
Yeah.
And then a young brain, it's even more so.
Yeah.
I mean,
that goes back to them not being fully formed. So
right.
I think those effects are magnified,
mm-hmm.
and it just, I think it's almost like a social media addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
And they get addicted to that dopamine hit and all of that stuff. And
I mean,
Yeah,
if we had social media when we were kids,
Oh,
we'd
man.
be different today than we are now.
100%.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been out riding my bicycle over the neighborhood. And
No, and all the dumb shit that we did would have been
Yeah.
documented.
yeah,
Let's be honest.
yeah, yeah. But all those things, but we wouldn't have been doing a lot of that dumb stuff because we'd have been on social media.
Yeah,
I think too.
just sitting at home, and
Yeah.
I mean, we still played video games, but not
Right. Not
like it is
obsessively.
now,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the computer thing, or
Yeah. I bet a lot of kids now couldn't put a chain on a bicycle.
probably not. But they
We could do it on the side of
there's
the,
a YouTube video for it though.
that is true. That is true. And it
But it
probably
all-
shows a better way than what we did.
Yeah, probably.
Here's the thing, though, with those YouTube tutorials, they always leave out a step, and it's a critical fucking step. I've fallen for that trap a couple times.
I've done
Okay,
some-
what's this bolt here?
Oh, should have done that. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, there's a double-edged sword to all that stuff. But like you said, I think the biggest challenge is how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, trying to figure that out, and
Yeah.
because our way's not working,
Yeah.
their way's not working.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, it comes back to communication. That's key.
Yeah. With professional development.
Yeah, but you got to communicate it first before you put professional development in place.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing battle. If you don't have the education, you can't have the communication. If you don't have the communication, you can't have the education.
And I see both sides of that.
Yeah.
You know what I
It
mean?
goes-
I
it
mean,
goes
it's-
both ways,
Yeah.
but-
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
something else to argue about.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, that I think things are going to keep getting worse before they get better. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what the turn is. I don't know if it is getting enough people in place and getting enough warm bodies in seats, as I like to say, that we can start focusing on some of those other things. Because right now that's the main focus. I mean, look at what we're doing department wide for training. Not much.
Yeah.
There's a few things out there going on that are good, but we're just not doing much because
Yeah,
we don't have the time.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 3 or 4 overtime guys on your rig every day that aren't yours. So yes, they need the training too, but you also want to train your guys the way you do things.
Yeah.
So just the company level training is not happening as much. So I don't know if I think the change might start once they finally get everything filled, but I don't know.
and that's fire service wide.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's short staffed. You have people working multiple days in a row. So now you get one of those guys or girls on your rig, and you're like, "Hey, what day are you on? 8, 7, 5, wherever it is." And you're like, "Now, do you really want to go drill them for hours?"
Right. It's
And
like
how
it's-
safe is this?
Yeah, it's more like go get some rest because
Yeah.
we may be doing something that you need to be rested up for.
Yeah.
So that takes out any time of doing any drilling or training or whatever.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't drill at all,
No,
but safety is definitely a concern.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's something as a company officer you got to think about.
Yep.
That's 100% my job.
yep.
You suck at your job. Shut up.
It's a weird thing when you get promoted, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And when you get your own guys under you, that's really a thought in your head every day of I need to make sure these guys get home safe.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and you don't think about it as a firefighter or a driver or whatever. You're just out there having fun doing the job and whatever. And then
Yeah.
as a captain, you're like, oh God.
I think you start thinking about it as a driver. Like that's when you're. It's one thing to ride out as driver that day when you're still a firefighter, but when you're in that position full time, you're like, holy shit, I'm responsible for getting us to the call.
Yes.
Getting us to the store, getting us back safely, and then making sure if I'm on a pumper, I can get water and I can sustain that water on a truck, positioning the truck right.
Yep.
Making sure the ladder's not the jack. You got to put the jacks out the right way. You know, do I short jack? Do I not?
Yeah.
And then there's a whole lot to it. So you start learning that, and you're like, okay. And then you start writing out more, and all of a sudden now you get promoted to captain. You're like, shit, there's a whole lot more to it that I didn't know, even as a driver.
And I think,
but at least you've got that base.
yeah. And I think one of the things there that I personally feel like we messed up as a department was getting rid of that whole driver's test.
100% agree.
You know, at the time, I totally understood it at the time when we voted on that. More people making more money, good idea, great. Everybody, that's good for everybody. And then a few years into it now we're several years into it, but it didn't take long to start seeing this was probably not the best idea. Because you need those times of riding out as a driver, riding out as a captain to start learning those skills before it's your full-time job.
Yep. Crawl, walk, run.
Yeah. And we're skipping,
Yeah.
we're skipping some of those steps.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't point fingers at any certain people. We kind of did it as a whole. We all voted on it, and
so we were talking about New York the other day, and they don't have a driver position. Senior person drives.
Yeah,
they're a senior firefighter. So I mean, of course they have a rigorous course that we've since learned about, but there's other departments that do that.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, you're going to drive today, or you're going to be our driver.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I still think you need to have that rank.
Yeah.
You need to have a test for it.
Yeah.
No matter which department we talk about.
Yeah.
That's just kind of my thing. I think it's a critical role.
Well, it gives
your growing process.
Yeah.
And it gives people motivation to do something. Because right now there's no motivation.
Yeah. Well, also it teaches them responsibility too.
Yeah.
You're giving them small increments of responsibility. You know, as the new sub firefighter, your responsibility level is pretty low.
Yeah.
In general. And then as you're the second firefighter. Okay, well now you got a little bit more because you're kind of expected to kind of mentor a little bit that new person. And then as a senior firefighter, that you've got those two people that you're expected to take care of. Then the driver is supposed to take care of all the firefighters. And then the captain's supposed to take care of the whole crew.
Yeah.
And then you move up to the district safety officer and the battalion chief. And then, you know, as you go up, there are levels of responsibility.
Yeah.
And
I think we
when you
jumbled all that up.
Yeah. When you start skipping all those levels and, you know, you can go from this spot to this spot and over here, and you're missing crucial foundational fundamental steps that you build on for the next level.
Yeah.
I think the entire fire service needs to change a lot of the ways we do things. And one of those is you're not going to spend 25 years on a truck. You're not going to spend 25 years on a pumper or a rescue or a hazmat rig or ARF or whatever else they have out there. I think that's great. I think you're very good at your skill set. But there's this whole – so you look at a pie, you're doing a quarter of it.
Mm-hmm.
You got this whole other 3/4 that needs to be learned. So you're not – I think we need to kind of bounce around and really hone all of our skills and not just one set. Don't get me wrong. Now, you can still hone, like, the truck skills. I'm not anti-truck at all. Don't get me wrong. Jealous. But, you know, the truck has a very critical role. So does the pumper.
Oh, for sure.
And I think you can coordinate your attacks with them, but it's easier to coordinate when you do them together.
Yeah.
You know, like if I understand more what you're doing on a deeper level, it makes it that much easier to coordinate what we're doing. And I think we miss that a lot. You get into a mentality of, oh, nope, I'm going to the roof. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I don't need a hole.
Yeah.
Maybe I need stuff over here first. Or maybe I need more people on a line. Or maybe I need more people on a roof. And, you know, there's things that change depending on the fire, where I think we do a disservice by spending an entire career on one type of apparatus. And that's fire service wide.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
So there are departments out there that basically do a rotation of you don't bid, let's say, a station or an engine house or whatever term you want to use. You bid a crew. And then every 3 years or 2 years or whatever it is for that department, you move. So you might be at the hazmat spot for this rotation, and then the next time you're going to go to a pumper. And then you're going to go to a truck, but your whole crew moves. So everybody gets the same training. Now, is that the best way? Maybe, maybe not, because you've got a whole new crew there that has never done any of that stuff before.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some lag time in proficiency. But does it ultimately end up having a better trained department as a whole? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there's something that another added benefit to that is you don't get people who stay at those super crazy, because every city has them, those super crazy busy spots where you're running, you know, an obscene amount of calls up all day and all night and all of that stuff. You might be at that station for 2 years, and then you're going to go to a station where you might run 2 calls on the outskirts, you know? So you're going to get maybe a little bit of time for a recharge. And I think that is an unseen benefit of that.
Yeah, I now looking at back in my career now, that it would have been very beneficial for me to have a few years here and there where I had some downtime because I didn't, and now you pay for it. Your body pays for it, your mind pays for it. So that would sure ruffle some feathers, though, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to rotate every month like they do at Hazmat, and you're going to be on the pumper this month. Your whole crew is on the pumper this month. The next month, you'll be back on the truck.
Yeah.
I'm going to push that on my way out the door. I got this great idea.
Let me know how that works out for you,
Right,
Darrin.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to vote for it just to see what happens.
Yep. You and me both. No, but I mean, but that goes to, with the fire service, there are so many traditions and unwritten rules, for lack of a better term, of, this is it's a legacy spot. This is where you want to be, or this or that or the other thing. And it's, we kind of have to, that way of thinking needs to go away. And we need to start thinking about our physical health, our mental health, capability as a whole. And then, also somebody like you who's getting ready to retire, you got to think about, okay, so how many injuries have you sustained during your career? How many traumatic events have you had? All of that stuff, it's going to affect you going forward.
Absolutely.
Even after you've retired. Just because you retire doesn't mean all that stuff stops.
Yeah.
It's not like your hip or shoulder or whatever you've had operated on is all of a sudden going to be, oh, I'm not on the fire department anymore. I'm magically 100% and blah, blah. No, you carry that with you for forever. So we need to start thinking long-term, play the long game.
Yeah. I'm like anybody. I didn't think about any of that stuff for years, up until the last few years, actually. I'm like, man, it's about time to go. And now my body's beat up. I had hip surgery, going to have shoulder surgery, all those things. And I'm like, how'd this happen?
Yeah.
I'm like, I was 21 last year.
Yeah.
I was 48.
Yeah.
I still feel like a dumb new guy. Probably act like one too.
Dude, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, I'm 43 years old. Like, I've had more behind me than I probably have in front of me. That maybe needs to make some changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I'm telling you, when you start doing paperwork and looking at numbers to retire, it really starts to hit you like, man, this is all about to change.
Yeah.
And, like we were saying, I started in the industry when I was 14, and I worked other jobs all along the way, but was consistently in the fire department. And now I'm going to retire. Everything I've known, everybody that knows me, my family, friends, my wife's family and friends, everybody knows you as the fireman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's the guy's fireman. That's a cool job. It's whatever.
Yeah.
And, a month from now, that's not who I am anymore. And it's just kind of a weird thing to think about, and I think we don't do a good job of getting guys prepared for that either.
No.
And I hate to compare us to the military because I know it's different, but there are a lot of things that are the same. And that's one thing you hear about from a lot of those guys, that the transition from that lifestyle back to a normal life is very weird.
Yeah. It's jarring.
Yeah.
It's because so to put it in like broader terms, is you're losing your tribe.
Yeah.
Because you were part of this, and that's what a majority of your identity was wrapped up in for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not that anymore.
Yeah.
And if you didn't take steps to make sure that that wasn't your whole identity, that you didn't have things outside of that, then it's going to be a shock to your system.
Yeah.
It's going to be like jumping in that frozen water, and
Yeah.
it's going to take some adjustment.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine the transition if I didn't have the dog stuff I have going on. I don't know what I would do. It would be a very strange change for sure.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to talk to you that first day you wake up. That's supposed to be a shift day.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not an end day.
Yeah.
Or, and it's not.
Yeah.
So I'm curious of what you're going to be feeling or thinking when you get up that morning.
Yeah. And even now thinking about it, there's some excitement there, but there's also like I said, that's kind of an end of an era of, what I've done my whole life. I said, I'm very fortunate that I have, the dog stuff going on. How long that lasts, I don't know. I mean, that may run its course too, but at least there's a transition from what I'm doing now to that. And, there's the guys that don't have that. I can't imagine how difficult that could be.
So now, with your hip surgeries, I mean, you and I basically had the same surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find it's harder now to do the dog stuff because of the terrain you're walking on and some of the issues? Because I still have some issues from the surgery, so I'm sure you do too.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely affects things that I can do, especially luckily, we haven't had any long, all day long type searches for a while. But yeah, knock on wood. But those are the ones where you can feel it, where it's a big, long day of being on your feet, walking through the woods, and
your
that kind
hips
of
get
stuff.
sore and your lower back's a little sore and the sides. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, yeah. My shoulder's the same way. I need shoulder surgery, and it's the same thing. It's like I have to adjust my lifestyle to fit that. Even playing catch with the youngest one. He's big into baseball right now, and I'm like, yeah, I can't play catch right now. I can throw it to you underhanded. Thank God I worked with my nieces in softball, so I can throw underhand. But yeah, it changes everything.
Yeah.
So.
And that all goes back to decisions we've made when we were younger. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work in busy areas. I think you should, but what it does to you long term.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because it is definitely, and I've noticed it. A couple shifts ago, we ran the big mulch fire. We were there for however many days, but we did a rotation there in the mid-morning, then got back to the station, got cleaned up, took showers, ate a late lunch at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then we had a first in working fire, a couple hours later. I'm like, man, this is fun. I'm going to miss this. Well, then we got hammered all night. The next morning I woke up, my back hurt, my shoulder hurt. I'm like, nope, I'm good.
See,
so it's just such a weird thing. Even yesterday, we had a good day yesterday. We didn't do anything overly exciting, just the usual stuff, but it was nice weather. Guys were great, and everything was good. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be weird. And then get hammered all night, listen to the ambulance and the pumper go. We didn't have that many calls, but
fucking truck guys.
Hey man, I was in the same,
like
because I was working overtime on another truck, and we were down there in the afternoon at the mulch fire. And then our pumper, once we got back to the station and we had a working house fire on the way back to the station where we were first in, pulled a line off the truck.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do we do with this?
For 20 seconds, it was nice.
You see him get nervous. He's like, what are you talking about, man?
So, but then we get back, and then the pumper has to go down there. So we're doing EMS calls.
Oh, yeah.
For the rest of the night while they're at the mulch fire.
Nothing makes a truckman madder.
Dude, and I was on day 3, so I was not having
You were
it.
done.
I was done.
And we were so worried. We're like, when are they going to send the pumper down there? Like, luckily they didn't, because we were like, now they're going to send them down the middle of the night. Then we have to run all their dumb EMS calls all night.
Yep.
But yeah, it's yeah. When those nights happen the next morning, I'm like, yeah, it's time.
Yeah, the whole sleeping all night thing. I'm sure you got used to it while you were unmodified.
Oh yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, it's such a weird.
Refreshed.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, because and that's one of the things too that you hear guys say it's a hard adjustment to retire. Then having that going through that time of being off, I was like, I don't think I can adjust. So
yeah,
I kind of had
but it's still
window
different
into what that's going to be.
Because I was thinking, I had the same thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, I could retire when I'm ready to go. Like, this won't be too bad. But I knew I was able to go back to work.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the X factor in that.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't even think about it. And then of course, the more I laid there, the more time I had to think, especially on that motion machine.
Yes.
It's like nothing but time to think.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, this big X factor is I know I'm going back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I retire, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, I said, I've probably done more thinking about everything, all my career in the last 6 months than I have the whole time before. Because you just think about all the things you did and reliving all those things. It's been more of mentally challenging than I ever thought it would be. Because you think, oh, the light's at the end of the tunnel. You're looking into the future. This is what I'm going to be doing now. Mm-hmm. But it's a very strange feeling for me anyway. I'm sure everybody handles it differently, but you do a lot of reflecting on all the crazy stuff that we've done or been around or seen or people we've worked with even or
yeah.
So
I mean, you got the new family. That's a great thing. You got the dog business. You're gonna be able to spend the time with them.
Yeah.
and those are all great things. But then this big piece of you,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and then
you can't explain that to somebody who's never
Yeah.
done it. So it's hard to have that conversation. I don't know the relationship you have with your family, but it's got to be hard to try and explain that
Yeah.
and to make them understand.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is. I mean, it's just a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a very, like my wife's always like, well, just go someplace slow for a while. And I'm like, I know I could. And that's probably what I should have done or should do, but you're like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm in a great spot. I got a good crew. We have a lot of fun. We run fires. We do all these things. And I'm like, I don't want to go someplace slow. I want to do that. I might as well retire. But it's just.
Yeah. Well, and I think you run into that. I think that's a very, very slippery slope and a trap. When you say, I'm just going to go somewhere slow and ride it out until I retire. And then you go somewhere and it's slow. And then you're kind of unhappy because you're used to being busy. And then you've got maybe a crew that doesn't want to train, doesn't want to get out and do things. They want to be at that slow station because they want to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. There's
that too.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's some validity there also.
Yeah.
A lot of pros and cons you got to weigh, and definitely what's best for you outside as well.
Yeah.
Where I think you're right with your dog business and what you're doing with that, which is a great thing. It sets you up to be able to do that more.
Yeah.
And expand it.
Yeah.
But also gives you a purpose.
Yeah. Because if I didn't have that, I mean, everybody's like, oh, you can do what you want. You can go fishing whenever you want. But I'm like, it's still just a different, it's different.
Yeah. And how many times are you really going to go fishing?
Yeah. 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 I used to, one of my old houses, I had a pond in my backyard and I hardly ever fish in it.
Yeah.
You just have too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big mental
adjustment.
Yes.
So, and that's something I want to go back to is you were talking about going back through your career mentally in the past 6 months. So like, what about it? Like, were you going back through decisions that you made, bad calls that you ran, like people that you worked with that aren't here anymore? Or
it's mostly for me been like bad calls. And I've caught myself several times, like we'll be driving across town and I'll be like, oh, we ran a fatality car wreck there. We ran this fire there once where we found this or that, or, just it's driving through town. You just point them out everywhere. And I'm just like, man, that's a lot of, then you start thinking about it. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff on your plate. And I never used to do that before. I could drive through town and just be zoned out and thinking about whatever's on the radio or listening to a podcast or whatever. And now it's more like, oh, I remember this happened there and this happened there. And I don't know why all of a sudden that is, but I think it's just knowing that everything's coming to an end. You're thinking about it more.
Yeah.
You're thinking about that side of it more.
So and I'll get a little personal, what are the steps you're taking to kind of deal with that and mitigate that?
Probably not very good ones. No, to be honest. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah.
More, I talked to luckily my wife's very understanding about it. And so I can just basically talk about it to her, explain to her those calls that we ran and whatever, and just kind of get it out. But as far as anything to actually process it, just, like I said, just talking about it, get it out.
Does that seem to be helping?
It does. And I think I could do more. And I probably will. It's been she's been like, well, maybe you need to go talk to somebody. I'm like, yeah, I do. I should. Why not? It ain't gonna hurt anything. Yeah. And then you go for the next couple of days and you feel good. I'm like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to do that.
I don't need to take my medication because I feel great.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then the next thing you know, I'm in that dark place again. And I'm like, little things are irritating me and that kind of stuff and edgy and all that. And she was like, remember that talk we had? Yeah. I'm like, yes, I do. So and I plan on doing that. I do want to. It's just like anything else. I get busy doing stuff and it's on the back burner. And it's the typical guy thing of like, I don't need help. I've done this for 25 years. I'm about to retire. Why do I need to talk to anybody now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't care who the toughest guys that have ever been on the job, you do not do a career in this field and come out the same. I mean, obviously our bodies get beat up, but mentally either. You just don't. And like I said, the dogs are always very therapeutic for me because it depends on what I'm doing with them. You have to focus on that task that you're doing. So you don't think about, oh, I ran this, fatality fire, or the night John and Larry died, or those kind of things. You don't think about those because you're focused on that task at hand. Even if we're out on a search, you're thinking about the strategy of the search, what you're going to do, where you need to be. So for me, that's kind of my therapeutic thing, but it's also not working through it. It's just
kind of avoiding.
Yeah, it's just a diversion from it. So I do plan on, and I know as soon as she hears this, she'll be like, I've been telling you for. So, but I do plan on, I want to try to find the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
And I did years ago, and it was not long after, it was probably 2 years after John and Larry died, and then me and one of my firefighters were in that explosion deal, and it wasn't long after that, it started out as marriage counseling with my ex, and then the counselor immediately figured out, we have way more things to dig into here, so we're going to separate you, and you're going to come in. And she did, and I can't, you guys may know the type of therapy it was, where they'd use eye movement.
EMDR.
Yes.
Yep.
And I didn't really know, I knew nothing about it. And by the end of that, it worked. I mean, it really did.
Yeah.
So I think I'm wanting to look back into finding somebody to do that with, because, and then I've recently heard, I listen to podcasts all the time, and a lot of former military guys, and that's kind of becoming a big thing for them too. And listening to how it works and that stuff behind it, I'm like, that's what I think what I want to do again.
Yeah, that is one of the statistically, has one of the highest success rates for dealing with PTSD and any type of trauma.
Yeah,
is EMDR.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't work for everybody, but statistically, it works for more people than it doesn't.
Yeah, and look, like I said, when I did that, I had no idea what it was, didn't know the name of it. This lady was like, okay, you're going to look at this, my finger, this pin or whatever, and they were doing this, and she was asking me questions, and I'm like, and then towards the end, she was like, okay, you're there. You're at the point I wanted you to be at. And I didn't even realize it until she talked about it afterwards, and I'm like, yeah. But that's been, I don't know, several years ago, and I've had a lot more stuff piled up since then. Yeah. And so I'm like, I think that's what I'm going to look into.
Well, I think that is something that departments should be looking into for people that are retiring, is giving them some kind of, not necessarily an exit interview for mental health, but, and you know how everybody is with the whole make it mandatory and that kind of thing, of how people shy away from that. But I think it should be strongly encouraged for people to, like, let's say the last 4 months or 6 months of their career, that's an option for them, of where they can sit down with a therapist and deal with all that stuff. Obviously, ideally, you want to be dealing with it all the way through.
Right.
So
but we don't.
But no, of course we don't. It's ignore and override. That kind of thing. But I think we could do a lot more on the back end. Obviously, we need to do a lot more on the front end.
Yeah.
But let's just be honest. We're going to have guys retire before that stuff that we're trying to implement on the front end is going to catch them.
Right. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not sure, like a lot of things we've talked about, I'm not sure what the solution is. If it is, well, for one, I think we need to prepare guys just in general better for retirement, because there's so many things that I've learned in the last 6 months that I had no idea about. So I don't know if we need to do more classes about retirement or what. We just need guys to understand this is even, how the money works. This is what you can do with your money. Start thinking about it. Start deciding where you want to put it, on a totally different note. And then that side of it too, either offer it, or maybe you do require some kind of exit interview, and not necessarily with the mental health professional. Maybe they're there also. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but I think that needs to be an option. It needs to be there. Yeah. Because like I said, I don't care if you worked your whole career on the outskirts of the city. The things we deal with they just change you.
Yeah.
And doing that will help you prepare for the transition to whatever your life's going to be, not going to the frat house every day or every third day.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's going to show the importance, hopefully, of having something else once you retire.
Yeah.
Because we're all the type of personalities that come into this career field. We're all kind of mission focused, right? We've got our tribe, we've got our mission, and that's what we are and what we do. And then once you leave, you don't have that anymore. And that's what leads to a lot of problems. Like, and I know I've mentioned it probably on the podcast before, but Tanya Glenn down in Texas, she's a therapist down there, and she's written a lot of books on, you know, first responders and military and all that stuff. And she talks in one of her books about this Texas state trooper that she knew. Saw him at the coffee shop like every morning, like clockwork, whenever he was still on the job. Always fit, you know, squared away guy, you know, like ready to go. And then she didn't see him for like 6 months. And then just happened to run into him in the coffee shop again. He had retired. He looked like a totally different person. He was out of shape, all of this stuff, because he retired and then just had nothing to do and was
didn't
lost.
have a purpose.
Yeah, didn't have a purpose anymore. And for a majority, I would say, of people that go into these career fields, purpose is very important. And I would say for just about everybody in general, having some kind of purpose in your life is only going to benefit you. And you got to find out what that is for yourself.
Yeah.
And whenever you've been in a, you know, career field for 25 or 30 years and you're not doing that anymore, you got to shift.
Yeah.
Or else you're going to be lost.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I strongly agree with that. I mean, I think if you don't have a plan when you get to the 25-year mark or whatever your mark is, you know, I always thought I would work for 30 years, 32 years. Why not? Why would I quit this job to go work another job?
Yeah.
Until you get there and everything's, you know, just like, I'm just done.
Yeah.
And if you don't have something, I said, I couldn't imagine not having the family I have and the dog stuff I have to go into after this. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah. Well, and it's, you know, we've all heard those conversations of people that retired and just like, oh, what are you going to do? Oh man, I'm going to travel. Great. What are you going to do next month?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I got plenty to do to keep me busy for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where, I think that's a big reason why a lot of guys that we see that work a long career retire and they don't live that long. They have nothing to live for.
Yeah.
Where when you're coming to the station every third day, you have the guys, you have the job, you have, you know, the purpose of what we're doing. And if you don't have that when you leave, I think your body just kind of goes into shutdown mode of, I don't have anything, I don't have a purpose. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, bodies in motion, stay in motion.
Yeah.
Bodies at rest, stay at rest.
Yep.
And once you start that shutdown process, it's pretty hard to reverse it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a lot of guys, what are you going to do when you retire? And I'm always like, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. But I know I'm going to be, I know I'm going to be just as busy, if not busier, just because I know what I have going. But if, like I said, if you don't, you know, and I think we need to, like I said, prepare guys for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I don't know what the answer is, but I think that we need to start looking at it for sure.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. You should start your own dog podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Have one of the dogs sitting there. Be your co-host. Yeah.
Well,
my dogs don't sit still long enough.
I mean, you know, you could talk about search and rescue things and
I've kicked that idea around a few times.
Yeah.
Talked to a few people about it. So I've got a lot of ideas. I'm just trying to sort out. I'm just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall now and see what's going to stick.
Yeah.
I have a couple of things that I know are, but yeah, I've even my wife's been through a lot of trauma also. And, we've both talked about, you know, going to some schooling, getting some kind of, counseling type certificates and start doing that just because of what we've gone through and how we've handled it and what we've seen and dealt with. And like, well, maybe we can help some people too. So that's something I've thought about.
I would encourage you to do that. I really would. Because that's one of those things of, and we've talked about it on this podcast, having people and I don't know if that would be your goal, would be to deal with first responders and all that
Mhm.
stuff, but having people that have been there and done that, or at least, are culturally competent and know what this population goes through
Yep.
is invaluable.
Yeah.
And to be honest, even though you're starting to see that trickle down effect of more counselors and therapists that are specializing in our special brand of lunacy, there's still not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about, because obviously we wait till the wheels fucking fall off before we go see anybody,
Oh, absolutely.
and we're in crisis mode. But you're talking about months of wait time sometimes, if it's not a crisis, of just, hey, I want to be proactive. Okay, well, I can get you in, 3 months from now on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and for me, that probably would be my focus. That, and then dealing with the trauma of losing a daughter and those kind of things. There's a lot of things, directions I could go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely something I've been thinking about. My biggest holdup is I'm not a very study school type of person. So there's going to be some hurdles there, but I know I have a good support system too, and I know she's very interested in it and would be like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think you're the type of person that, though, once you're motivated to learn something, you learn it.
Yeah, once I get going, once the ball gets rolling and I see the benefit and see, then yeah, so.
Yeah. Because I know what it's like. I mean, I grew up training coon dogs.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy proposition to train dogs.
Yeah.
Especially to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think you got a little bit more patience in you than you're really.
That's what she tells me too, because she helps me with the dogs, and she's like, I just do not have the patience that you have to do this.
Yeah.
What about training therapy dogs? Is that something that's kind of close to what you're?
Yeah.
I know search and rescue is not easy.
Yeah. And
so then, how much harder would a therapy dog be?
It would probably actually be easier, and that's something that I've kicked around too, because I know there's a need for that too.
Yeah.
There's a big need.
Yeah. So.
It's just an idea. I mean,
all those things are definite ideas.
Kind of do a dual thing.
Yeah.
Where you're still doing your search and rescue, but you're also doing this, and so you're hitting multiple areas.
Yeah.
And then you kind of dip into, looking at the counseling thing too, and like, oh, you probably need a therapy dog. I'm not saying use it to to sell your dog.
Congratulations, I have one, and it'll only cost you $5,000.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Spin around in my chair, put the other hat on. Hey, got you.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Kidding.
But to help
everybody gets a therapy
help facilitate, because
for sure.
Talking to a guy that's trained, that has trained them, it sounds like it's almost a contract. And you just train them, and then they decide who gets where the dog goes.
Yeah.
But now you're able to it's easier for you to refer them to what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hitting 3 major areas that are needed.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, that's one thing that's definitely in my thought process for the future and to look into. So
I'm going to give you my dog and train his ass.
Who, Kratos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a board and train right now that he's going to be a decent dog, but yeah.
He's all right. Mine's already a great dog. He's just a little skittish around some people.
Yeah.
Especially kids. So I kind of keep him away from
I am
kids.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like about 8 to 10, he's fine and older, but like little kids, he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I don't want him to nip someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
just don't let people come to my house because I don't want people in my house anymore. I'm at that age, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, Brownie was like that for a little while, and then once my nephew was around, and we had the other nieces and nephews around him quite a bit too, but they were all a little bit older, except for the one who was young whenever we got him. But I mean, he was a little bit like standoffish.
Yeah.
But yeah, him and Jackson, who's my youngest nephew, just turned 4, like best buds. Like he'll come lay his head on him, and it's just, it's cute to see.
Let's see, like we've got my nephew now. He's only 4 months, but he's like, yeah, he's cool. Comes up, sniff him, lick him, and he walks away. Now, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's when he starts walking, and that's
yeah,
because it's different. These things are loud. They're small. They're quick.
They're pinchy. They're grabby.
Yeah.
So I just don't want him to do what dogs do, and give him that, hey, knock it off. And
yeah. Well, because the damage caused is significant.
It could be
to a human compared to another dog. And
but
that's the only way they have to tell him to knock it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like it when you pull my tail. I've growled. You didn't get the point.
Yeah, most
And-
people miss those first
Yeah.
signals of I'm not comfortable here.
Yeah, especially kids. And,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he's gentle with us, with adults, like my whole family. He'll take food out of my mouth and not, like you stick the little
That's
thing out.
disturbing.
Whatever.
Did
I
I-
don't care.
Yeah.
I love my dog. Fuck you guys. And fuck you, judgy people too.
So that is something I would never ever do with Brownie, because he is not. He is 100% food driven.
See, our bullies, I won't like. They're gentle when they take it out of my hand, but I don't trust them.
Oh,
But he
he's a
comes up
lunger.
and he barely just takes it, and
Yeah.
like I gave him a piece the other day, just with my hand. He comes back, he's like, "Hey," so I was like, "Okay, you don't want it." And he just let right go. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just all depends on the dog and their drives and what motivates them.
Yeah, I don't think he's driven by food. We've never had a food issue.
Yeah.
He just wants to be loved. He's a big baby. He's 85. He's still 85 pounds. He's just turned 2. I'm like, would you gain some weight? He eats all the time, but he's still skinny.
Hey, man, you don't want him to get fat, and then he'll start
Well, no, I
have
just want to
worry
fill out
about-
a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
He will.
just worried about him. That's my baby. I get him when the divorce is coming. As soon as Jane wises up and says, "Hey, you're an idiot," I'm out. I get him.
You take your stupid dog with you.
Yeah.
She's not going anywhere.
No.
She got Stockholm syndrome. She doesn't watch these anymore. She's like, "You're an idiot." I'm like, yeah, I know.
Oh, my goodness.
What else you got?
I don't know, man. Like, this episode's all about you. Just like every other episode is about the guest. It ain't about us. So what else do you have?
Like I said, the biggest thing that I've thought about is like I said, guys starting to prepare themselves sooner for retirement, mentally, financially, educating yourself on the process. And
I think that's the hardest part right there. Is getting the education on the process, because you hear so many different things.
yeah,
And you don't know what's accurate and what's not. And then, like, you might, so like in a year from now, somebody's talking to you and you talk about your process. They go, "Oh, okay, that sounds good." And they start going through it like, "Hey, man, Darrin fucking lied to me." And it's not a lie. It's just changed
It's
again.
just changed.
And nobody's
Yeah.
updated us.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think there needs
Darren's
to be,
not a liar, by the way. Just point that out.
I think there needs to be some kind of, I don't know if it needs to be online, if it needs to be in person. There needs to be some kind of retirement meeting more often. I know they do it randomly, but I think there needs to be a fire department focused one.
Yeah.
And I don't know how often that needs to happen.
Well, I think we need to talk to our young people about it too.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, that's going to be all of us at some point in our careers.
And you don't
So-
think about it until you're hit the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well
I
into
didn't
your
I didn't
career.
plan well in my 20s.
I didn't either.
I mean, they explain the pension. You're like, "Hey, that's awesome."
Oh, cool.
So-
It'll be there when I get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't really think about the other ways you can plan to save and all that.
Yep.
And then once you learn it, you're fuck.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
screwed. You know?
Wish I'd have been doing this 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm so far behind the 8 ball, I can't catch up. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I said that the younger generation, I mean, there's so many things we need to be better about telling them and educating them on. But yeah, we definitely need something for guys when they're getting close. I started calling, guys that I'd worked with that had recently retired, one that had been on the pension board for years. And I call and talk to him, and he goes, "I learned things at my retirement meeting, the one I'm going to today, that I didn't know." And he was on the pension board for like 15 years. He said, "I had no idea." And I was like, how can that be?
Yeah.
There's got to be more knowledge out there than
Well,
we have to have a way to get that
then
knowledge
why
out.
do we
Yeah.
hoard our knowledge?
Right.
That's a tradition I've never
Yeah.
liked. Like you look at promotional processes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fight. And I might know something that you don't, but I'm not going to share it because now I lose my advantage.
Yeah,
And
you're
that's,
gonna
that's
share
not,
it.
that's not a great way to think about things.
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
share a little, just enough to make this person think that you're not an asshole, but you're
Yeah.
not going to give them everything.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's one of those things where I was reading whenever I was getting ready. We were getting ready for the promotional process and was reading, I don't know, some article, and this guy was talking about how he had talked to 2 different people. One was from a department where it was a competitive test for promotion, and the other where it was based straight off of seniority. And you just had to wait your time, and he talked about how the information flow of the two departments were significantly different. With the seniority-based department, where everybody knew eventually they were going to get to a certain point, there was no hoarding of information. Everybody shared it freely up and down the chain, and hey, we're going to make the job better and do this, and we're all one. Whereas on the competitive side, it was that information hoarding and compartmentalization and nobody sharing, and to the detriment of the department. Do I think competitive tests are wrong? No, not at all. I prefer them. But do I think that the information sharing that the other department was using is the way to go? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. See, I like the way the military does it. You want to get promoted? Great. We want you to get promoted. Here's your classes. You need to get those done by this day. And then we'll look at promoting you on what you've done in your career.
Yeah.
And there, one of the things I've thought of, even with the driver deal, having a test, like the old school test, driver portion added to it, however we want to do it, and then you have to pass that to make it onto the promotional list that is seniority, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
And then that takes the competitive edge out of it, because it's still seniority. You just have to pass the test to get into the seniority list.
Yeah.
And then maybe that information is shared better. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think, obviously, and I mean, I've heard other people say the same thing of, having a class that you have to take before you take the captain's test and making it pass fail. Like you don't just get to score whatever and continue through the process. Like there's, baseline standards, minimums that you have to hit before you're allowed to the next portion. And I don't understand why there are departments out there that don't do it that way.
Yeah.
That you're just going to promote somebody who obviously didn't take it seriously and just waited because I've got 20 plus years on and I'm going to get all of these seniority points. So I don't have to do the work and learn all this stuff because I've got this much time.
I'm a driver in a good spot. I'm just going to stay there and then get promoted right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately it ends up hampering the growth of the department and the training, going forward, and the knowledge being shared and disseminated to the younger generation that's coming through, which as, second and third effects, it ends up you have a less capable fire department.
Yeah.
Then that's just what it is. That's what happens. I don't know. That's my soapbox.
I don't disagree.
So, I mean, obviously,
I definitely would like to see more classroom work on preparing for promotions in the fire service period. And not just, we're only going to accept certain people. It needs to be, hey, we have the ability to have virtual classes now. COVID proved that. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Well,
but you have to attend and you have to pay attention. And so you have places where you can go take a test. I'm okay with the test, but that way you're not doing it online where you can use your book and all that, where you have to learn the information.
Maybe it's a kind of a thing where here's a captain's promotional class. You go to this class, you pass it, you get X amount of points on your test.
Yeah.
That's going to drive guys to go do it.
I think it's still going to be score based. So,
right.
I'm okay with that. You get a 90, you get 24 points or 80 points or however it is you want to score your testing and your promotional process. Don't care. But there's a breakdown of it. So the course, the better you do in the class as you're learning, and the more you learn and you study, the course, the better your test score is going to be. And I think it's going to make you more knowledgeable. It doesn't mean you're going to be a great captain just because you can pass a test. We've all seen that.
Right.
We know that.
That's where I think, though, that whenever you are designing something like that, there are programs or classes that you would put in there that will help that process. Like
absolutely.
Learning about leadership and those type of things.
Well, they need to be specific on leadership, not just, hey, these are your certain types.
Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. How do we apply it?
Yeah.
And that's where I think there's a lot of failure in the educational system overall. Because, hey, you have 10 different types of leadership styles. Pick one. Well, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like anything else. That one style isn't going to work for every situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it doesn't work for everybody on your company.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, different people have to be handled differently.
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably more laid back than I should have been as a captain, but I also, went at my leadership style as we are all adults. We may not always act like it, but we are. We all can function. We all have, we all made it to this point, so I don't need to baby you. And that's kind of how I went at it. I'm not here to babysit you. I'm here to help you, to be your leader, to make sure you go home tomorrow. And I think the guys that go into it with this big, strong fist of this is how I lead, you're going to follow me because this is how I am, they struggle.
Yeah.
And we all know, we all have met those guys. We've all probably worked for them at some point. So, yeah, I think there needs to be that leadership style needs to be part of that process.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely need to learn the different styles and what they are and how they function, but also how to read somebody and how to apply each different style, and then find your own. I mean, it could be a cross of 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
That's why I think the class should be called Leadership Application, or how to apply how to apply leadership principles in practice.
Yeah. Any one of those would work.
Yeah.
You call it what you want, but
I like mine because I came up with it.
I don't like it because you get fucking big-headed.
Now you just got to disagree just to disagree.
Yep, I have to. It's in the bylaws of the podcast.
Well, that's the drama that we're trying to come up with on the podcast. So it's what
Thing
keeps
is, it's
people
not
coming
fake.
back.
That's the problem. It's not scripted. I really fucking hate him.
Well, once again, we went over this at the beginning. You can quit.
No, because you'll just belittle me.
Yeah, but then you just ignore it and,
I would.
That's a leadership style.
Yeah.
Ignoring it.
The belittling.
Belittling. Yeah.
Tearing you down to build you back up.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Authoritarian. That's
That's it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Do I need to handle you with kid gloves and just make you feel better all the
I
time?
like being ignored.
I do that pretty well too.
Yeah, it's nice when I go a whole day or a week. He's like, man, I haven't heard from Jeremy. This is amazing.
Yeah. Small chance of that happened now that you're the floater in my district, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm tired of that shit, too. It's just you.
Yeah. Well, I wear everybody out eventually.
Yeah, I've noticed. No, it's been fun. So I had to redo some stuff in my closet for all the clothes. Like, I've got all my uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I need to get a spot. I need a locker again. Because there's just so much shit.
Yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah, floating's different. I once I got that part of it figured out, I enjoyed it, just that I got to see a whole different fire department than what I was used to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
And,
I enjoy floating. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great, and everybody should do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the con to it. And
Yeah, that's
carrying your
definitely
shit all day.
There's
Yeah.
definitely an adjustment.
and now trying to meal prep and stuff and eat better.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got like 8 bags I got to carry in every day, which means I have 8 bags I have to carry out at night or in the next morning.
And one of the big things we've pushed for how many years now is all the cancer prevention stuff. And so now you're going to float. You're going to go to a station that may not have a gear washer and all those kind of things. You're
the
gonna go
extractors and stuff like that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
now you're going to bag your gear up in a crappy trash bag and throw it in your car, and it's going to be in there for 2 days.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just
So-
percolating.
Yeah, just totally.
Just marinate in that nasty shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty good my whole career about washing my gear. I really have. And what's nice is like right now my car's in the shop because I got rear-ended. And then so I'm back in my truck, but I still try. But at least I have a bag for my gear, and that's not. It's just it's a regular bag, not a trash bag, but still it's. I cleaned it out yesterday. I was like, man, this thing's dirty as. So I had, I scrubbed it and cleaned it and all that, but still, even when I have the car, it's in the trunk. And
I think that whole thing on a different subject is something we need to keep pushing too is the cancer prevention stuff. I think there's some extremes that departments go to that are just not feasible for what we do.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of clean cab pushing right now, and I'm not against it, but I'm not for it either.
Yeah,
I think I see the pros, but the cons are huge.
Yeah, and I don't think I am really educated enough on exactly how they do those to have a good opinion on it. Just the rumors I've heard, I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea, but I think there are things that we need to keep pushing, the extractors and those kind of things. Because
absolutely.
For years, there wasn't one in our district, and it was at one station, and we just never went up there and did it because it took so long. Or you went to the academy to do it, we just didn't do it. So you did the old hose it off out in the front and let it dry in the sun, and all the things we're not supposed to do, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
And now, since I've been up there, we have a fire. When I get off the rig, it comes straight off and goes straight into it doesn't matter if it's 2:00 in the morning, it goes in the wash, and I'll get it out of there in the morning. But yeah. And I think that's something we need to push to. And I think that, like we've talked about the generational stuff, I think the new generation is a little more cognizant of that, maybe, or their lifestyles a little different.
Because the information that's come out, it's presented to them right away. To us, it was, hey, wash your gear.
Yeah.
And that was about it. Like, you could get, you might get cancer.
Yeah.
And that was like the extent of the conversation.
Yeah.
So it changes.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of explaining of a lot of things for us. It was do this.
Yeah.
Well, why? Because I fucking said so. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now.
Yeah. Know your shit and throw a ladder. That's kind of what we got.
But now the new generation is, okay, well, that's great. You said so, but why?
Why?
But why? Why?
Yeah. And I think there needs to be a good balance.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a little of that because I said so.
Yeah.
But this is why I'm saying so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I came on for years, your bunkers were right next to your bed at night.
Yeah.
I mean, now we know that's a terrible idea. But back then it was like, you were weird if you left your bunkers out in the bay because it took you an extra half a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now you wouldn't dream of it.
No.
But so, I mean, it is changing, but I think we need to keep on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think and then also, I don't know why, and I think it's starting to shift in some places, but the whole firefighter diet thing of, why are we still frying a majority of things?
Because it's delicious.
And I get it. And, I mean, you're cooking for, depending on what station you're at, you might be cooking for 15 guys.
Yeah.
So it's cost prohibitive for everybody to have a 100% healthy meal, but at the same time, I think we could do
healthier things.
There's some things that we could do.
So just in the short time, I've learned a lot on just seasoning my food the right way.
Yeah.
Just, and that's a big piece of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Cutting my sodium. Like, I haven't had a soda in 2 weeks, and I don't crave it. The sugar, really nothing I ingest anymore has refined sugar. And I don't have that craving, which I thought I would. Like, I thought I'd be like Snicker bar, have the little, but
the little twitch.
My eye cocks a little bit, but I don't have it. I'm just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, even we had dinner at my brother's house the other day. He grilled chicken quarters, and then I ate a sweet potato, and then I forget what vegetable we had. Then we had green beans. That was it. I mean, they all had salad, and the salad's not the bad part. It's the fucking dressing.
Yep.
Like, you can't find a dressing that's low sodium. Like, I think it was like 250 milligrams of sodium per serving. I'm like,
and
really?
Nobody puts just one serving of dressing on their salad.
Absolutely not.
Something that,
so I'm struggling with that because I love salad, but I got to have dressing. I can't, or salt on it.
Yeah,
I'm not a salt guy either.
I'm the same way, and I used to drown my stuff in dressing too. And my wife is very health conscious, and she's really good at all that kind of stuff. And what she does is she always gets the dressing on the side, and she uses a fork, and you dip the fork in the dressing, and then in your salad, and then so you still get that dressing, but it's not covered in it. And it's amazing to me how much.
I might try that.
Yeah, it's amazing how much less dressing I use when I do that.
Yeah. Whenever that's something that I actually learned back whenever I was fighting, and the guy that I was training under, that's how he had all of us. He's like, yeah, you can have dressing. This is how you use it.
Yep.
And
I'm gonna try that because I still like salad.
Yeah, I love salad.
I just can't eat it dry.
No, me neither.
I get like 4 bites of it, and then I'm like, it's gross. I'm done.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like celery. I love celery, but I can't eat it by itself.
Yeah, it just tastes like dirt.
Yeah. I get about 1.5 spears down. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I can throw some peanut butter on there. I'm good.
Yeah. Peanut butter makes everything better.
Yeah. But you can only eat so much peanut butter because when you start breaking it down,
Right.
you're like, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's just looking at things like that and trying to figure it out.
Yep. And I think that's something we're horrible at as a fire service in general is our health. It always comes last. And,
Oh, yeah.
eating at weird times, like I said, eating fried food, cold food, random times. And you get up in the middle of the night when your body's supposed to be in that mode of, downtime, and you go work a fire and you come back and you're starving. And what are you going to eat? The first thing you can get your hands on, which is Fat Boy cakes and cookies and all that stuff.
Delicious.
Yes. Puts me right back to sleep.
Yep.
Yep. And you wake up refreshed too after
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having all of that sugar in your system.
Yep.
That shoulder that was kind of inflamed. Oh man, it really hurts now.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
That's because I slept on it weird.
Yeah. There's always a different reason. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my mattress sucks, man.
Yeah. It's always the mattress or something else's fault.
I would think there's something to that too, but yeah, it's definitely we have way too much sugar and sodium.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that would be beneficial to everybody's health is, and I know they're supposed to be working on, is changing the alerting system.
Yeah.
Because I know there's one station now that has the new one where you can
Amazing.
I haven't worked there. I've heard it is amazing.
Oh, just go hang it. Honestly, just go hang out till they catch a run, and listen to it.
Yeah. I've heard it's
that's a cup of coffee or two,
yeah.
and you'll hear it, and it's
And then at night you only hear your rig. Ugh,
well,
that'd be amazing.
it depends on where you're sleeping.
Really?
Yeah. So like you have that hallway with the officers.
Uh-huh.
So even though I'd set mine to the pumper or truck or whatever I was on, I could still hear it go off on the outside in the hallway. But it's not like it was you jump up and startle. Right. You just it's not for me.
Yeah.
Boom, you're right back asleep.
Yeah.
But it's still you're so ingrained with it over time.
Yeah.
But I'd wake up to the light before I would the alerting system itself.
Yeah.
Because you can set the brightness of the light. It's a red light too, so it's not like it's bright.
Yeah.
But
That might not be good for me.
But I think those kind of
bright
things,
enough to wake you up though. But it's not that white light blinding you.
Yeah.
It's that red light that you're able to focus on or focus when you wake up.
Well, I think it would make guys' careers longer. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm done. I'm like, I am so tired of hearing bells every 10 minutes all night long. And
The bells in your office suck.
they're loud. Yeah.
I popped up at a fighting stance. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I was so out.
But just that being woke up, that much, and it really sucks for the guys having to go out on the calls, the EMS people. I mean, I can't imagine being on one of those 2 ambulances, or a lot of ambulances in our city actually. But I think that would make guys' careers longer and not cause as much, side effects and going home angry every morning because you didn't get any sleep whenever you ran. I had one call, but I was up all night because
everybody else was running.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where the 12-hour shifts for EMS comes in. Where I think anybody in this country should never work a 24 on an ambulance, just because of how busy they are. Even your quote unquote slower ones that are rural, their transport times are freaking long.
Yeah,
and then that doesn't include the time coming back, so you're still up.
Yeah,
so I think 12 hours is just about right for any EMS shift in the country. That's a personal opinion.
You got a hot date? What are you going on?
No.
Just kidding.
Next guest just confirming that we're still on for later. So
Did they cancel?
No, they're good. They were just asking. So,
was it noticeable?
No, but I think on that same note though, with prolonging careers, I think it would actually make the retirement better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think it would lead to less heart disease.
Yeah.
Overall,
So have you read the reports about what the bells do to your to your heart, like the contractions and everything, and how it makes your cortisol and everything spike?
Makes everything.
Yeah.
Your fight or flight kicks in right away, and it's not. And then you come down real quick. And it's not.
Well, some people do, some people don't.
Yeah.
And it's, trying to go back to sleep, so your rhythm's off, and there's it's a cascade effect all the way down.
I did the math after the last set of run numbers came out, and at our station, and granted, some of the EMS calls, they're out, so the bells don't go off each time. They're out, and they go from one call to another, or several of us go on
multiple
the same
calls
call
in a row.
Yeah,
or
we go on the same call.
The whole house goes.
But if you just look at the numbers alone, there's average 56 calls a day out of that station.
Yeah,
that's a lot of bells. Even if you cut that in half, that's a lot of bells going off.
I'd say you get about 40 bells a day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That'd be about my guess.
Yeah,
and if you had that sort of system where it's not affecting everybody, even if you're on the pumper that is busy, and they're not hearing us going out on automatic alarms or whatever.
Yeah,
those 2 or 3 calls we go on that they don't have to listen to, man, that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
I mean, every morning I come home, on the way home, I'll talk to my wife. She's on the way to the hospital. And how was your night? Oh, it was terrible. How many calls did you have? 2. But it's terrible because I was up all night. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's hard. That's a hard thing for families to understand too. They're like, well, if you only had 1 call, why are you so tired?
Yep. I have the same conversation with my wife.
Yeah.
Because, I drive the Chief. So, I mean, the odds of us going out at night, I mean, we might run 1 or 2, whatever, but we're not typically busy at night. But I hear that ambulance go out 3-4 times a night. I hear the pumper go out. Yeah. I hear the truck go out. And it seems like they never go out together, but they all go out within about 15 minutes of each other.
Yep. Yes.
And that's probably just my sleep brain not like telling time correctly, but it seems like it's like back to back to back to back. And then the one gets back and then they leave again and the next one's back, but then they're leaving. And and then we ran, like you said, 1 or 2 calls, and I wake up and I'm just like trashed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that affects your whole next day. It affects your family when you go home, when you're grumpy. If you don't get if you're a person that doesn't have time or your lifestyle doesn't allow you to go home and take a nap, and then you're up all day, and then by evening, when all the family is around, then you're grumpy and short with them and all because you didn't get any sleep, and you didn't do anything the night before, but not sleep because you heard everything else.
Yeah.
Well, then you throw in a 2-story station. Those are terrible. I don't think any station should be 2 stories. It should all be 1 level. Because you throw in the stairs. I'll be honest, after midnight, fuck them stairs. Elevator it is. On the way up, not the way down. That's different. That's different. But I'm not going to slide the pole anymore either because of that impact on my hips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something I got to think about. And I mean, if you were going to stay, you too.
Yeah.
I know you're on a single story station, but over time, that impact of hitting the ground, sliding the pole, it affects you.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not something I thought about in my younger days.
If you're doing it correctly and you're landing on the rubber mat that is bouncy like you're supposed to, the impact's supposed to be mitigated, Chris.
Were you a fucking salesman?
He's got stock in the rubber mats.
Apparently. Okay, now that we're not in fantasy land anymore, we're going to go back to reality.
I can tell you, when they made all the little wooden steps by the rigs, at first I'm like, well, that's dumb. I use one every day. There's usually not one. There's not one there in the morning. I always got to go find my old man step, I call it. But I'm like, I get my old man step because
I use them.
Oh, dude,
I make no bones about it.
Yeah,
I would tell you that's something that I noticed within, I don't know, probably a month of being a DSO. The difference in how my body felt from climbing in and out of pumpers and trucks as opposed to just getting in the SUV.
Oh, I bet.
It's my knees don't hurt as bad, my shoulders don't hurt as bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to step at the station, but then when you get to the call, you got to hop out with all your gear on.
Yeah.
It's still a long way down.
And then climb back in.
Now, what if you're parked on a hill?
Yeah. Well,
and it's a hill where your side's up even higher, and for a short guy like me, I'm like, son of a bitch.
Or if you're on a truck and they have the jacks out, and you're like, I can't even climb in there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave all my stuff on the ground until we're ready to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't remember where I read it at, but they were talking about that whole getting out of the rig with all of your gear on, and like they had numbers and stuff of like a 200-pound person with all of their fire gear on. That's what, 260, 270, 280.
Yeah,
that's
in that ballpark.
About. So it's the equivalent of doing like an 800-pound squat.
Yeah,
of getting off the rig,
ground.
and you're landing on usually one leg.
Yeah.
So an 800-pound squat with one leg
So that goes back to what I was saying
over.
about limiting the impact, especially with the surgeries that we've had, and we're not the only ones. It's becoming more common
I've
now
heard
with
more,
that surgery we've had.
I've heard more hip surgeries in the last couple years than a lot of things. And I don't know if it's because of that.
Well,
like
also,
I didn't know about yours until I think I just was about to have one of mine, but I talked to another guy I used to work with, and he'd had it.
Yeah.
So is it? And I'll ask you because you got considerably, or not considerably more, but more time on than us. So you've seen more iterations of fire trucks than we have. Are the trucks that we're getting now? Doesn't it seem like the step up is higher than it used to be?
Yeah, 100%.
It's 6 inches higher.
Yeah.
And that 6 inches makes a difference, especially for somebody your height.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for me, it's not that big of a deal.
But you don't think it is, but it is.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
It's different.
You can handle it better because your step is longer and your legs are longer.
Yeah.
But it's still a long way up because you have further up to go than I do.
So then you're getting into shoulders. Guys reaching up and grabbing stuff and pulling.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know what the solution there is too. I don't know how they. I mean, it just seems like the rigs are getting bigger and bigger.
I've seen
and bigger.
what is it? I think it's called a quantum usually. But
The
basically,
fold down step.
yeah, you open the door and the steps fold down. So now they're only 6 to 8 inches off the ground.
Yeah.
That's a manageable step for anybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter your height.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
then
you
they fall
have to
back
have
up.
a city that orders those fire trucks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have to make sure. Here's the problem with those type
They're
of
more
steps.
expensive too.
Well, those type of steps in general, the actuator motors go out all the fucking time.
Yeah.
So what happens whenever you've got a fire truck that its step won't go up or won't stay up
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it causes a problem. I won't deny that.
or won't come down?
I mean, it's one solution of many,
Yeah.
but they're expensive too.
Yeah.
And when you have bigger cities, it's harder to fund that because of the cost, and I get it. But I don't think we need to have fire trucks that are 10 feet tall either.
Yeah. They're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I don't think they need to be for a lot of reasons, but I think that's just industry wide. They're
They're all getting bigger.
yeah.
Well, and then
And I'm all about the safety features. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, do we really need to pack all that? Can we pack it into a smaller vehicle?
Well, and I think here's the thing, like not specifically for where we're at in the Midwest because we don't have really that problem. I mean, we have some neighborhoods that have the narrow streets, right? But we're not talking about like we're on the East Coast and I mean, there's no
Everything's
way
narrow.
everything's narrow. So then, yeah, why are those guys getting giant ass rigs or are they?
I don't know.
So
Well, I think it depends on the need of your department too, where sometimes you have to get a bigger truck because you need the reach.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I can tell
you're not going to have one go up to 25 stories. That'd be ridiculous.
But I mean, if you look
a
at
truck,
look at the pumpers, even their steps are huge to get in and out of. Also,
Yeah.
And how much stuff do they? Being on the truck, we carry so much stuff that we do not use.
yeah.
I mean, is there a way to?
It's that old
all that.
have it, not need it, and then need it
Yep.
and not have it argument.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like really, what do we need? And I think maybe that needs to be examined department wide of maybe we don't need this newest, latest, greatest thing to add to a long list of tools that we don't really use.
Yeah.
Can we cut back on some of this stuff and maybe not carry quite as much stuff or reconfigure the compartments to where the things that it's decided that we do need to carry fit in there more easily and are easier to pull out. And, so you're not getting those shoulder, back, elbow, knee injuries from trying to reach 5 feet in this compartment to dig something out of the back that weighs 30 freaking pounds.
Yeah. And I'm sure the committees that do those guys are doing the best they can with what they're given. But I think that all needs to be looked at on a regular basis.
yeah,
Yeah.
and height plays a factor in that. 'Cause not
Absolutely.
everybody's going to be tall.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I mean, I've
And
worked.
now, look at like a ladder placement on some rigs that are out there, where people who are short like me really can't reach it. So now I have to muscle it above my head, and I can do it,
Oh, dude, the first station.
but now I'm risking tearing my shoulder again, or
The
worse.
first station that I worked at, there was a firefighter who was on the truck company there, and where the saw was at was in that compartment over the duals, right? So somebody my size, I reach up there, pull it out, not a problem. Well, this individual is 5'1", if they were even that tall. They had to climb up on the tire to get the saw out. How is that safe for
so many reasons.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's centralized to one department. It's
that's everywhere
worldwide.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's tough to think about that. I don't think we all do, because we're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. We can store this here. Gives us this room, that room, which is great. I'm okay with that. But what about all this? So we ignore this stuff for convenience sometimes, because it's not convenient to think about short people when we're talking about storing our stuff.
Because short people don't matter as much.
See what I deal with? Mm-hmm. This is why he has no friends.
That's why he has to have a podcast to
Yeah.
invite people over to talk to. Look at my friends.
That one hurt, Darrin. That was,
You're welcome for getting Darrin to come back on.
Yeah.
I had to twist his arm hard. I just hope
Really?
the check
'Cause
clears. I'm broke.
oh, so you paid him. That's why he was. I sent him a text, and he was like, "Yeah, sure,
Absolutely.
yeah."
It took a while. It was a lot of browbeating.
I didn't know there was a bribe behind the scenes. That's,
No, I never mind coming on and talking to you guys. I mean, I don't know if I'm ever very helpful, but I enjoy it. And if somebody gets something out of it, then it's worth it.
That makes it helpful right there.
yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's it's one of those things where you talk to somebody who has the life experience that you have, and you've been through the fire service and seen different sides of it and seen iterations of it and how it's changed over the course of time. That's only going to be helpful, and there's lessons that can be learned from anybody, really. Good lessons, bad lessons, whatever. And I think one of the biggest things with having you come on is how open you are and how you'll talk about anything, and you don't sugarcoat stuff, which I think we need more of, because there is a lot of that. Well, yeah, I'll come on and talk or whatever, but I'm only going to talk about these things, or let's not talk about this. Let's only talk about that. And,
Or you sit there like a bump on a log.
yeah, which that doesn't make for, there's no reason to have somebody come on that's not going to talk.
It makes it easier when you're open. You don't have to draw things out.
Yeah.
And
Well, I've always looked at, I've been very fortunate and very unfortunate in my life with my experiences. And if those can help anybody, I'm all for it, because I needed help when I was going through those things. And so if my experience and how I handle things is good or bad for somebody, then I'm all for it. If somebody looks at or listens to what I tell them of this is how I handled something, they're like, I could not do that. That's terrible. You still learn from it. They learned that that's not for them.
Yeah.
And somebody told me something similar to that when I first got on the job, because my first captain was a doozy. And they said, always learn from it. Learn from that guy that's not what you want to do when you get to leadership. Mm-hmm. And if you have a great one, you're going to learn what you want to do. Yep. And I've kind of taken that and used that in all parts of my life. I'm learning something from every situation I'm in, good or bad. I learned something from it. So that's kind of why I look at these kind of things. Is I'm going to put it out there. It may be something where whatever somebody learns from it is not, for them, but they learned something.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I got to take this one.
Okay. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up anyway.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's that's the way I look at it, and the only way to do that is to be open and honest, and my experiences and what I've learned, good and bad. So
yeah, well, and I think it's so valuable, and it's something that is only going to make, and selfishly I say the department, or maybe not selfishly, I don't know, but it's only going to make things better for the younger generation to have people that are willing to do that, to step up and say, hey, this is what I dealt with, this is how I did it, and like you said, you learn stuff. I've had some pretty crappy captains in my past, and I've had some really great ones, and you learn just as much from the bad ones, like you said, of, look, I know whenever I get in that position, I am not doing that.
Yep.
And because I don't appreciate that. I don't like how they treat people, whatever. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah. And I think that's something that kind of we don't do a good enough job of pushing, of that you're going to grow and adapt.
Yep.
And that's kind of the whole goal of, whenever we talk about training is always, you want to grow, you want to be more proficient and all that stuff. And we've had that conversation of, you're going to go through this career. You're going to see all of this terrible stuff. How are you going to be the same person?
Yeah.
When you get done at the end, well, the answer is you're not.
Yep.
And why would you want to be?
Yeah.
Because that means for 25 years, you didn't grow at all.
Yeah.
You didn't take any of those experiences. You didn't learn from them. You didn't come out a better person. You didn't take the opportunities that were presented to you for growth.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of my standard answer for that kind of thing is you're not going to be the same person. You're presented with the opportunity for growth and you should take it.
Yeah. Not you to join us.
Hey, it's like I wasn't even gone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. We know where your priorities lie.
Yeah, it was the shop for my car, and it was unknown if it was going to be more expensive or not if they found anything. So I was like, I got to take that one.
So was it really unknown? Because we know how mechanics are. It's usually always more expensive.
Honestly, it's cheaper.
No shit.
Yeah, I was like, no shit, really? That's awesome.
Now you got money to burn.
It's like $50 cheaper than what it was supposed to be.
Sweet. That means you can pay for some podcast equipment.
Wins and wins.
Now my check won't bounce.
That's right. There you go. That's the equipment I pay for.
Oh, is that how we've been getting guests? Have you been paying people behind my back?
Yes. I do what I got to do.
See, now you feel bad?
Yeah. That's why I want to quit, because I'll make money if I quit. If he fires me, I can file unemployment.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So the car's ready to get picked up, but I probably won't pick up till tomorrow.
Well, we got time between...
I got to deposit money for that first. So I'll just do it tomorrow.
Okay.
But I'm going to have you take me up there.
That's fine. You
It's
just have to come
15.
pick me up.
Oh, fuck, you don't have a car.
No. Because remember, we dropped my Jeep off at the shop this morning.
Yeah, I guess we're taking your motorcycle.
Yes.
My suspension will not handle that.
Oh, I know it will. I got the same bike.
But you don't have the same shocks.
Well, you're still stock?
Nope. I changed mine out.
Oh, you're fine then. Everything above, anything you change out that's not stock is an upgrade.
Can't argue with that, but... So, anyway.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we don't need to go off on a tangent. I can always just ride to your house and we can go from there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. No big deal.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Not really. I think we covered a lot.
We did. We kind of went all over the place, but that's all right.
I liked it.
Have an exit strategy for whenever you're getting ready to retire.
Yes.
And make sure you prepare. And not just, financially, but mentally too.
Yep.
Because things are about to change in a way that you aren't going to understand until you do it.
Yeah.
I had that conversation today with a buddy of mine. Actually, you can explain something 1,000 times. I was like, because he was taking it a little personal. I was like, it's not a personal thing. Like, you explained it very well, but you don't really understand it until you do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing with retirement. Until you get there, and you sign that on your name on the dotted line, and you walk out for your last day, you don't really understand.
Yeah.
We could talk about it all we want and say, "Oh, I'm ready," but got to prepare.
Yep.
Yeah.
And talk to people who have been there and have a plan.
Yes. Yep.
Darrin, final thoughts?
Yeah, that kind of covered it. I said just have a plan, have something to do afterwards. Like I said, I've got a few shifts left, but I can't imagine nothing being there when I get there. So I said exit strategy, start planning early, start figuring it out. It's good, I think, for younger people to start thinking about that way early on so they can start putting the proper money away. But as far as the actual retirement plan goes, I mean, a year or so is not too early. I mean, it gets, this career goes fast, and that last little bit goes even faster. So the earlier you can start that preparation, the better.
Yep. Agreed.
Awesome. Well, everybody, like they both said, they summed it up better than I can. So if you're struggling, reach out. There are resources out there. If you know somebody that's struggling, reach out, let them know you care, let them know there are resources out there. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health, take care of your fitness. And like they said, whenever you get ready for retirement, plan in advance. Have a mission, have something that you're going to do that you enjoy afterwards, that's going to keep you busy and occupied. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.